Hi, everyone, and a warm welcome back to Mindsprout Books, the channel where we explore holistic self-development through the wisdom of books. In October 1772, the great German thinker, scientist, and writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe received shocking news. His friend Wilhelm Jerusalem had taken his own life over unrequited love. The news hit Goethe hard, not only because of the sudden loss of his friend, but because Wilhelm's experience mirrored his own so closely. Goethe was in love with a beautiful young woman named Charlotte Buff, but she was already engaged to another man. This one-sided infatuation plunged him into a deep depression. Eventually, on the advice of friends, Goethe let her go. 2 years later, on a crisp autumn day, he visited Wilhelm's grave alone. In the chilling, desperate wind, he felt as if spirits were rising from the graves, threatening to swallow him whole. It was then that Goethe conceived the idea to write about what he and Wilhelm had endured. In less than a month, he completed the story, which would become the timeless classic we know today, The Sorrows of Young Werther. Upon its release, the book created a sensation across Germany, and for over 200 years, it has remained a masterpiece, continuously published worldwide. Werther's sorrow wasn't just the pain of many Germans at the time. It is a sorrow that many of us still face today. It's the pain of love, of career, of life, of the future. It's the torment and regret that haunt us from the past. These feelings constantly wage war on our fragile hearts. As the author wrote in the novel, your unhappiness lies in your broken heart, in your tangled mind. No one can erase that unhappiness for you. Some say that life is a great prison, but the only one who can truly imprison you is yourself. That's why today we're exploring the theme, the only person who can imprison you is yourself, through this classic novel. Together, let's look straight at our illusions and limitations, reawaken our sense of truth, return to our authentic selves, and live a meaningful, happy life. The young Werther comes from a wealthy family, but is born into a society in turmoil. Disgusted with the world around him, he feels that the only way to save his soul is to escape to the countryside and embrace the life of simple working people. And so, he moves to the beautiful town of Walheim. There, he lives amidst nature, adores children, and builds good relationships with the lower classes. One day, at a dance, Werther meets a beautiful young woman named Lotte. He enthusiastically asks her to dance, telling her amusing stories that make her bloom like a flower. Gazing into Lotte's bright eyes, he feels certain that he is the man of her destiny. But then, like a bolt from the blue, the party ends, and Lotte tells him, "I should let you know, I have a fiancé. His name is Albert." Werther is stunned, feeling as if his world has just collapsed. In the days that follow, he tries to keep his distance from Lotte, but cannot escape the illusions spinning in his mind. When people live in illusion, they love to analyze. Werther begins to overthink every little thing Lotte does. The way she danced with me, it was more passionate than with anyone else. When I held her hand, we looked into each other's eyes, and I saw the same happiness in hers as I felt in mine. When her carriage passed by, she was the only one who leaned out to look at me, not once, but several times. After turning these moments over in his head, Werther becomes convinced that Lotte loves him. He revels in his own deductions, sinking deeper into the intoxicating fantasy of this one-sided love. One day, they happen to visit an elderly sick woman in the village. Lotte cares for her with immense tenderness and care, her eyes filled with a gentle sadness. But Werther, standing by her side, feels that Lotte's sadness is for him, that her tender gaze is directed only at him. When he gets home, he confidently tells a friend, "She hangs on my every gesture. Her eyes tell me that she loves me." Werther lives in this self-made reality, imagining passionate love stories, a wedding, and a life growing old together. It's not until Lotte actually gets married that he can no longer deceive himself. And by then, the truth completely shatters him. Now you might think this young man is just hopelessly romantic, to the point of being delusional. I might fall for someone, you might say, but not like that. But the point here isn't what we fantasize about, but why. We all have different illusions, but they all stem from the same root cause. We love to fill a void within ourselves. This was true for Werther. He was infatuated with Lotte because they were polar opposites. Lotte is kind, generous, and gentle, always knowing how to care for those around her. When a storm hits, she hides her own fear and comforts the other girls with a smile. When a villager falls ill, she immediately visits to care for them. And Werther? He brings Lotte some slices of lemon, but when she instantly gives them to a friend beside her, he seethes with resentment. When Lotte and her fiancé give him a rare book he'd always coveted for his birthday, Werther accepts the gift with a mix of joy and humiliation, thinking he is holding a gift from his arrogant rival. What attracts us is often what we lack in ourselves. The book Intimate Relationships discusses the concept of complementary attraction. We tend to be drawn to people who embody our ideal self, that is, people who possess the qualities we desire but do not have. These qualities reflect our deepest inner wants and aspirations. If you're attracted to someone wealthy, it's because deep down you feel a sense of lack. If you admire someone outgoing and witty, it's likely because you're more reserved and quiet. You're drawn to a confident person because you feel you lack courage. You fall for someone beautiful because you want to boost your own confidence in your appearance. This admiration isn't just about appreciating someone from afar. It's a desire to be seen and valued through them. Loving the standout qualities in others is our unconscious way of seeking balance, of completing ourselves with the strengths we feel we're missing. However, the universe brings people into our lives as lessons, opportunities to reflect and recognize who we truly are. But unfortunately, like Werther, we often miss this chance. We ignore the truth that could help us grow, and instead, we try to protect our fragile egos. This is the true breeding ground for illusion. Loving someone doesn't create illusions. Illusions arise only when you become too attached, too desperate to cling to that feeling. This desperation makes you rationalize anything to get the outcome you want. You might try too hard to make the other person love you back, or, like Werther, blindly pursue a one-sided love based on a sliver of false hope. Once in a relationship, you might become possessive and dependent. If they leave, the pain and loneliness are unbearable. In this state, it's nearly impossible to make wise choices, and you drift further from your true path. You can't truly love someone else if you refuse to see the reality of the situation. You'll get caught in an endless internal spiral, using your fantasies to trigger old wounds and live in a state of emotional pain. Or you'll constantly dream of a perfect future that never comes. When one person leaves, you'll just find another person or another thing to fill that same void. As long as you live in illusion, the truth will remain buried. To break free from romantic illusion, start by accepting your imperfect self. When a relationship feels unbalanced, ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What am I truly seeking from this? Then, embrace all of who you are, flaws and all. Recognizing your limitations is the first step toward maturity and building a strong inner self. This is the challenge and the lesson we must all learn to overcome. After Lotta's wedding, Werther writes to his best friend, Wilhelm, "My spirit is so heavy. It feels as if all my strength has vanished." Wilhelm, sensing something is deeply wrong, advises him to leave town and find a job. A few weeks later, with his friend's help, Werther becomes a clerk in the office of an ambassador. But in this new workplace, his boss is picky and exceedingly strict, constantly pointing out his mistakes. The drafts Werther submits are often returned without a second thought. His colleagues also get on his nerves. One of the secretaries is always boasting about her status and wealth, but Werther knows her father is just a minor government official, and he despises her for it. In such a small office, he can't escape her presence. Werther's mood grows darker. He complains endlessly about his job and curses the people who annoy him. One day, unable to take it anymore, he writes a long letter directly to the Count, his boss's superior, airing all his grievances. "The people and events around me constantly throw my emotions into turmoil, while I have so much I need to do." Werther anxiously awaits a reply for weeks, but the letter brings no comfort. On the contrary, it sours his relationship with the ambassador even further. The ambassador starts inviting Werther to his home, only to have a crowd of aristocrats present to humiliate him. He assigns Werther the most difficult tasks only to casually dismiss all his hard work. Knowing that Werther cares deeply about others' opinions, he deliberately uses cold, cutting remarks to provoke him. The truth is, when you're running from yourself, pain will find you no matter where you go. A person who uses work to escape emotional pain can go down two paths. The first is to become a workaholic, neglecting their health and true feelings until they are consumed by their job. The second is Werther's path, letting a dark mood poison their work, finding fault in everything and everyone. Werther believes his misery is caused by others, failing to see that he is the source of his own suffering. When you refuse to face your own problems and keep running, you'll never find success or peace in anything you do. That was Werther's predicament. He took the job to escape his love for Lotta, but how could he possibly do it well with a heart full of sorrow and a complete lack of interest? When his work suffers and his boss is displeased, he thinks his boss is out to get him, never realizing the problem lies within himself. There's a line in The Little Prince that rings true here. It is much more difficult to judge oneself than to judge others. The problem is always with someone else, never with me. When you're troubled, simply changing your location or your job won't make the trouble disappear. You can't cure an illness if you don't treat the right disease. So, don't use work as a hideout from your pain. Learn to face it, observe it, and accept it. Pain is an unavoidable part of life, but only by looking it squarely in the eye can we heal and move forward. When you work, make sure you are doing so willingly and with full commitment. Don't let your emotions overwhelm you or run away from them. Only then can you avoid getting trapped in the emotional prison of your own making. A few months later, the anger and pressure finally cause Werther to have a complete breakdown. His family has no choice but to let him resign and return to his favorite town to recover. Upon his return, Werther feels a sense of comfort and relief he hasn't felt in ages. He rides his horse to a clear stream, surrounded by lush green trees, and strolls down a small path bursting with wildflowers. But the further he walks, the more something feels wrong. He stops and looks closely. This is the very path he once walked with Lotte. In that instant, countless memories of her flood his mind, driving him mad with a desperate longing to see her again. That evening, he circles her house for a long time before mustering the courage to go inside. Lotte receives him politely and warmly. She plays a cheerful tune on the piano, but the music makes Werther burst into tears. "Please don't play anymore," he says, before turning and running out into the dark, misty night. As it turned out, that was the first song Lotte had ever played for him at the dance where they first met. Alone in the darkness, Werther is suffocated by painful memories. His impossible love for Lotte, the humiliation from the ambassador, his betrayal of his best friend Wilhelm's trust, and his mother's disappointment. These thoughts make him feel like a complete failure, utterly powerless. His mind begins to unravel, and he starts to look like a madman. Even an old acquaintance who once respected him says with disappointment, "You're a lost cause. It's hopeless." Werther just laughs bitterly and repeats, "I don't know what I'm living for anymore." On December 21st, 1771, the last Monday before Christmas, Werther writes a final letter to Lotte and then takes his own life. Why did he choose to end it all? Was it simply the unbearable pain of a broken heart? In truth, the core issue, not just for Werther, but for many of us, is that when pain becomes overwhelming, it's not the tragedies themselves that push us over the edge. It's our inability to face our fears, our refusal to acknowledge and overcome the deep conflicts raging within our souls. Even before he met Lotte, Werther was a man at war with himself, not just in love, but in how he saw himself and his place in the world. He always considered himself a painter, but never truly focused on it. He was passionate about the countryside, captivated by its natural beauty and simple life. He loved to feel, to praise, to immerse himself in that passion. But he forgot one crucial thing: to actually paint. Why didn't he pick up a brush in such an inspiring setting? Because for him, painting was a way to prove his talent, not his true passion. Anything could distract him and throw him off course. Although Werther seemed to admire the natural lifestyle of the peasants, he also looked down on them for their lack of grand ambition. So what kind of life truly suited him? When he takes a job to escape love, the new environment quickly deals him one blow after another. He condemns the arrogance and superficiality of the aristocracy, but the more he condemns it, the more he reveals his own deep desire to be a part of it. After being thrown out of an aristocratic party, he hides his immense disappointment behind a mask of contempt, simultaneously despising and craving their way of life. Throughout the book, Werther repeatedly mentions how this person or that person admires him, whether it's a duke, a general, or a child. He likes Lotte and her siblings only because he feels they like him back. If someone doesn't admire him, they are immediately an unpleasant person in his eyes. Werther is like a man floating in midair, unable to find his footing. His inner contradictions prevent him from living as his true self. He can't choose a path and commit to it. He can't be like Lotte, the woman he secretly loves. No matter what happens, she remains honest, dedicated, and pure. When someone is sick, she cares for them. When she's sad, she dances. life is just that simple. For Werther, the conflict and emptiness inside him caused him to crumble under the weight of heartbreak. He lived perpetually in illusion, through the eyes of others, and in a painful past. He did try to step back and observe himself, telling himself, "You can't keep agonizing over what you don't have. You should appreciate the present and let the past go." But sadly, the moment he returned to himself, his heart was immediately overpowered by desire and emotion, and he couldn't escape the mire of his memories. In the end, he imprisoned himself in his own heart, leaving us with the Werther sorrow. After reading Werther's story, each of us will have our own feelings and reflections. But for me, his tragedy leaves us with a priceless lesson. In this life, we must learn to be authentic. When you face love, are you truly loving the other person? Or are you just trying to fill the empty spaces inside yourself? When you're with others, are you living for yourself? Or to satisfy their admiration and expectations? When it comes to your career, are you doing it by choice or for some other purpose? Only by being honest with our inner selves and daring to confront our internal conflicts can we avoid imprisoning ourselves in our own emotions. And only then can we live in the present, break free from the pain of the past, find inner peace, and overcome our own Werther sorrows. I hope that in the years to come, you can live with a clear, honest, and serene heart, able to face life's challenges with peace, escape your troubles, and live at ease as your truest self. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell to catch our newest videos every week. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.